Alright guys, so Subtlety Rogue is actually surprising a lot of people. Everyone thought it was gonna be pretty bad, and it turns out it's actually pretty good. So we have a lot to discuss here, so stick around and let's get right onto the video. Okay, so we can start here with the talents, and the best build it's this one over here. The only thing that changes on the talents, it's literally the hero talent. If you want to play Trickster or Deathstalker, the Subtlety tree it's gonna be the same on both sides. It changed a lot. Now we are using Lingering Shadows because we weren't using on the previous video, and that was decreasing our damage a lot, and we found a way to have the damage increase of the tier set, and we also found a way to have 100% uptime on the Lingering Shadows effect, but we'll get there on a second. For the stats, as we don't need that much haste on this season because we don't have the tier set empowering Shadow Blades and having the increased duration on Shadow Blades, we cannot send 2 secret techniques in Shadow Blades, so we don't need that much haste. So what you want is the maximum mastery that you can, so around 60%, 60 to 70% mastery. Then the rest is crit, then haste and versa. But we can start with the rotation here on Trickster. As you can see, it doesn't change anything from the start. We still want to use Secret Technique and Cup of Grace inside of the 2 import combo points that Shadow Dance gives us on the start. And the only thing that changed is this buff over here on the left, which is the one that Lingering Shadow gives us. And we always want to have 100% uptime on that. And how do you proc that over there? You always proc that whenever your Shadow Dance ends. So you basically want to know the time of your Shadow Dance. So you can basically press Shadow Dance when the Lingering Shadow buff it's reaching your maximum Shadow Dance duration, and you want to play with that basically. For example, when you press Shadow Dance, your Shadow Dance has 6 seconds of maximum duration. When your Lingering Shadow proc it's reaching 7 seconds, you want to press Shadow Dance, so when your Shadow Dance ends, it ends when the Lingering Shadow proc it's reaching its last second. So it procs again and you have the 100% uptime on that proc. The other thing that changed, it's whenever you're sending, for example, the full burst, you're gonna see that we proc here the Cup of Grace, we send it. On the second Shadow Dance, we are not gonna send Secret Technique. Why is that? Because we always want to send Secret Technique inside the 2 import combo points. Because now Ancient Art now considers the total damage of Secret Technique and not just the initial hit. So now we get a lot more value on sending Secret Technique inside the import combo points. So keep in mind that, guys, and use that in your advantage. And that's literally the only thing that changed here on the rotation. So we can check here the rotation for Deathstalker, and it doesn't change anything as well. We always want to use the first Secret Technique inside of the import combo points because of the Ancient Arts. So over here it doesn't change anything on that aspect. Right now on this build we can actually utilize better the Lingering Shadows proc. On Deathstalker we can basically always have 100% uptime on the Lingering Shadows proc, and of course you never want to use Secret Technique outside of the import combo points, as showed here. And as you can see here, the damage comparison of the 2 specs, we basically did 45 million damage on the 2 specs. As you can see over here, we did more damage on Deathstalker on the same amount of time. So Deathstalker it's the way to go, guys, and it has even a much better prior damage, so we are gonna utilize that a lot. But as we can see over here on the dungeon, Deathstalker performs much better than Trickster. We have much more sustain. I still believe that the burst damage, the initial burst damage on Trickster, it's a little bit better than Deathstalker, but the damage profile and the damage sustain on Deathstalker, it's much better than Trickster. So there's no point on using Trickster right now. They really want us to use Deathstalker for this season, as we didn't use it last season. Even after the changes, nobody's using it because of the haste. So they took off the need of the haste and are basically making everyone play Deathstalker for next season. As you can see over here, the damage it's very good on AoE and single target, very consistent. One of the things that makes more damage on Deathstalker is Shuriken Storm. So keep in mind that, guys, and that's basically it for Deathstalker. Here on the dungeon, as you can see, Trickster it's very good again when we have the burst. As you can see, we have a lot of burst damage, and I believe that's one of the things that Trickster gains the most value. It's on the initial burst, but one of the problems is that it doesn't have that much sustain. This build has a lot more sustain than the other one that we were using on the previous video, but I believe Deathstalker it's much better than Trickster. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to use Trickster right now. The only thing that I believe Trickster is still better than Deathstalker on the overall, it's on the single target, and I believe that's one thing that might change because they might want to empower a little bit more Darkest Night, because I believe Darkest Night it's not making the greatest damage. So Deathstalker on the single target it's performing worse because of that, in my opinion. But on the overall, Deathstalker it's a much better option. But for the overall, I believe Sub Rogue it's gonna surprise a lot of people, and it's surprising. Everyone thought the tier set was gonna be awful, and turns out it's actually not that bad. We just needed to find the best build. That's basically it for the video, guys. Subtlety Rogue, I believe it's gonna be a little bit higher on the tier list than we thought. I hope this video helped in any form possible finding that Sub Rogue is actually a little bit better than you were thinking. So thank you again for watching, guys. My name is Musget, and I see you on the next video.